There are moments in your life when everything seems to move faster than your inner clarity can keep up with. Thoughts arrive before understanding. Emotions rise before reflection. Decisions begin to form before awareness has fully caught up with what is actually happening inside you. And in those moments, life feels like it is pressing forward, asking you to respond immediately, to choose quickly, to act without delay. Yet beneath that urgency, something quieter is present. Something that does not rush, does not panic, does not demand immediate reaction. It simply waits. And that waiting presence is not absence. It is awareness. You may have felt it before, even if only briefly. A moment where you were about to say yes, but something inside you paused. A moment where you were about to walk away, but something inside you hesitated. A moment where a decision felt almost complete, yet not fully settled, as if reality itself had not yet finished revealing all its information to you. And in those small pauses, something important is happening. Not externally, but internally, because not all decisions are meant to be made at the speed of thought. Some decisions require alignment before action, and alignment cannot be forced. It can only be recognized. There is a reason certain choices in your life feel heavier than others. It is not always because they are difficult. It is because they are significant in shaping direction beyond what is immediately visible. And when something carries directional weight, life often slows your perception just enough to make space for awareness. But the human mind, trained for urgency, often misinterprets that slowing as inconvenience. So it pushes forward. It fills silence with reasoning. It fills hesitation with logic. It fills uncertainty with assumption. And in doing so, it often makes decisions that feel correct in the moment, but later reveal deeper misalignment. And this is where the quiet warning emerges. Not a warning of failure, not a warning of punishment, but a warning of timing. Because timing is not just external. It is internal readiness meeting external opportunity. And when those two are not aligned, even good decisions can feel heavy later. There are paths that look clear, but are not yet meant to be taken. There are opportunities that feel urgent, but are still forming their true shape. There are emotional impulses that feel like certainty, but are actually temporary clarity shaped by momentary intensity. And intensity is not the same as truth. Truth does not rush. It reveals, slowly, layer by layer. And if you pay attention closely enough, you may notice that the moments you regret most were not usually moments of lack of information, but moments of ignoring subtle, internal hesitation. That small pause you felt but did not respect. That quiet uncertainty you dismissed because everything else looked convincing. That internal pause is not confusion. It is perception still processing more than thought can immediately articulate. And when you override it too quickly, you are not making a wrong choice in the moral sense. You are simply making a choice before the full picture has stabilized within your awareness. There is a deeper intelligence operating within your experience that does not communicate in loud instructions. It communicates in shifts of clarity, in changes of emotional resonance, in subtle alignment or misalignment that you feel before you can explain it. And that intelligence is rarely urgent. It is precise, and precision requires space. This is why hesitation is not always weakness. Sometimes hesitation is awareness still forming coherence. And coherence is what allows decisions to remain stable over time, rather than collapsing under later understanding. You may have experienced situations where something felt right at first, but later became complicated in ways you did not expect. And in hindsight, you may notice that there was a subtle feeling at the beginning, a small internal resistance that you either overlooked or rationalized away. That moment matters more than it seemed, because life often speaks first in subtle signals before it becomes obvious in outcomes. And the ability to recognize those signals is not instinct alone. It is awareness refined through experience. And you are in that refinement process now. There is a deeper reason why certain decisions feel like they carry emotional weight that goes beyond logic. It is because they are connected not just to outcomes, but to identity shifts. And identity shifts are not visible immediately. They unfold over time as you begin to live into the consequences of what you choose. When you make a decision that aligns with your deeper direction, even if uncertain, there is often a quiet expansion afterward. Even if the path is challenging, something inside you feels coherent. But when a decision is made too quickly, without full internal alignment, the result is often not immediate failure, but gradual friction, a sense of effort that feels slightly off, a subtle internal resistance that builds over time. Not dramatic, but persist. And persistence of misalignment is what eventually becomes exhaustion. This is why the moment before decision is often more important than the decision itself, because in that moment your awareness is either fully present or partially overridden by urgency. And urgency is one of the most powerful distortions of clarity. It compresses time. It narrows perception. It amplifies fear of missing out. It reduces complex situations into simplified narratives that feel easier to act on but may not reflect deeper reality. And when urgency leads, awareness follows too late. But when awareness leads, urgency loses control over interpretation. There is a version of you that already knows how to sense when something is aligned and when it is not through overthinking but through a quiet internal calibration, a sense of expansion or contraction, a subtle openness or tightening within your own awareness. That sensing is not mystical. It is perception before conceptualization, and it is often more accurate than immediate reasoning when it is not overridden by emotional pressure. But modern life rarely encourages that kind of sensing. It encourages speed, it encourages immediate response, it encourages certainty before reflection. And so you may have learned to distrust your pauses, to override your hesitation, to interpret inner quiet as indecision rather than information still forming. But what if that pause is actually the most intelligent part of you speaking? What if the space before decision is not empty, but full of signals you have not yet learned to fully decode? There is a deeper rhythm in your life that becomes visible only when you stop forcing alignment and begin noticing it. Sometimes that rhythm says, yes, move. Sometimes it says, not yet. And sometimes it says, not this. But it rarely shouts. It suggests. And suggestion requires listening, not reacting. There is a reason your life has sometimes shifted in ways that only made sense later. At the time, certain decisions may have felt confusing or uncertain, but over time, a larger pattern becomes visible. What seemed like delay was protection. What seemed like loss was redirection. What seemed like uncertainty was preparation. And in hindsight, you may realize that the timing of things mattered more than the things themselves, because timing reveals readiness, and readiness reveals outcome quality. And outcome quality is not just about external success. It is about internal coherence with what you are experiencing. And now, in your present moment, something within you may already be approaching a threshold where a decision feels close. Something that seems to require immediate response. Something that feels like it cannot wait. And this is where the deeper message becomes relevant. Not to stop you from choosing, but to invite you to see more before choosing. Because clarity that arrives after a decision is often less helpful than clarity that arrives before it. And the space before decision is where awareness has its highest influence. If you rush through that space, you lose access to information that does not come through logic alone. You lose access to subtle knowing. And subtle knowing is often what protects you from misalignment that only becomes visible later. There is no shame in past decisions made quickly. They were part of learning how to distinguish urgency from clarity. But now, something in you is capable of more precision than before. You may already notice it in small ways. A stronger sensitivity to what feels right or off. A quicker recognition of emotional pressure. A deeper awareness of when you are being pulled by fear rather than understanding. These are not random improvements. They are signs of evolving perception. And evolving perception naturally slows down impulsive certainty, not to prevent action, but to improve alignment of action. Because action without alignment creates movement without direction. And movement without direction eventually circles back into repetition. But aligned action creates progression, even if slow, even if uncertain at first. So in this moment, the message is not to freeze your life. It is to refuse premature certainty, to allow space between impulse and commitment, to let awareness complete its observation before you finalize direction. Because what feels urgent may not be what is truly important, and what feels uncertain may not be what is unclear. It may simply be what is still revealing itself, and revelation takes time. So if you are standing at a point of decision right now, emotionally, mentally, relationally, or internally, there is something being asked of you that is very simple but deeply powerful. Do not abandon your awareness for speed. Do not replace subtle knowing with immediate reasoning. Do not close the space where clarity is still forming. Because in that space, something is becoming visible that your future self will understand more fully than your present urgency can interpret. And if you allow that space to remain open just a little longer, something will often become clearer on its own. Not because you forced clarity, but because you allowed it to arrive. And when it arrives in that way, it does not create regret later. It creates stability. And stability is what allows decisions to become part of your life instead of disruptions within it. So wait not out of fear, but out of respect for awareness still forming. Because what is meant for you does not require rushed blindness. It becomes clearer when seen fully. And what is not meant for you often reveals itself when you stop forcing immediate conclusion. And in that pause, something very important happens. You begin to trust your own perception again, not as something perfect, but as something increasingly reliable when given space. And that trust is what transforms decision-making from reaction into alignment. And alignment is what changes everything that follows. So wait, not indefinitely, not in fear, but long enough for clarity to finish speaking. Because what you are about to choose may shape more than just a moment. It may shape a direction, and direction deserves awareness that is fully present. And in that presence, you will know, not from urgency, but from calm recognition, that this is the right step not because it is fast, but because it is clear. And clarity never rushes you. It reveals itself when you are ready to see.